Welcome to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison.
I'm Molly, a former skeptic turned full-time energy healer and teacher.
And I'm Madison, a born and raised witch running my family's crystal shop.
And we're here to explore all things woo through the lens of both science and spirituality so that you can find the moments of magic in your everyday life and create an intentional spiritual practice.
So if that's what you're into, find a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's demystify some magic. Howdy doody, friends.
Howdy doody, friends.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Drakentine's Day to all those who celebrate.
Isn't it just like one other person who celebrates Drakentine's Day? This fake holiday that you made up?
I mean, yeah, but she does listen to the podcast. So Lindsay, if you're listening, happy Drakentine's Day. Anyone else, if you want to put on a Drake t-shirt and semi-ironically listen to Drake music while singing karaoke today, you're welcome to celebrate as well.
Happy Drakentine's Day, Lindsay. I hope you have a blessed day. Today, we are talking all things dating while witchy. How to ease your partner into your spiritual expansion, how to participate in dating culture when you have some maybe alternative spiritual beliefs in the grand scheme of, the culture. And some witchy things that we both did to meet our people. But first, Molly, what was your magic moment this week?
Oh, my magic moment is that this is like such a wild and bonkers milestone, but my Instagram hit 100,000 followers this week.
Woo!
Which is really bonkers because less than a month ago we hit 50K.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like 100K was like a goal that I was like, yeah, maybe in like a year I'll hit it. Slowly, steadily work towards it. And now I'm like, people keep asking me, what's the next milestone? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just having fun at this point.
Yeah, I think eventually it's so fun to reach the point where there are no milestones of like, I'm just living and whatever happens, happens. We're just going for it.
The thing that's so cool is like the number isn't even like the thing that I'm excited about. It's like the community that we've built, because I feel like I know people. Like people comment and I'm like, I know you, like we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
Or I like in my DMs I'm like, yeah, I know you, you know. And I feel like I never had that. Like my TikTok has been even bigger and I just feel like I don't know anyone on TikTok anymore. But Instagram, I'm like, yeah, these are just like 100,000 of my friends. We're all just hanging out listening to the podcast together. Like so many of you are listening to this, which is bonkers. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. Who knows? By the time this comes out, I might have like 200,000. Who knows?
I love to see my bestie getting the recognition she deserves.
We love it. What was your magic moment?
Okay, so I have a little bit more of a tactile magic moment this week. I just got back from the Tucson Gem Show, which if you haven't listened to our past episodes about like crystal shopping, crystal buying, Tucson has the largest gem and mineral show in the country, maybe in the world. I don't know for sure, but I know at least it's in the country. It's fucking massive. It's bonkers. And my mom and I travel every year to go buy our rocks. We might be a little bit of, a couple control freaks, and we need to pick them out one by one in person. That's just like how we operate. And so we were there for 5 or 6 days, and there were 2 vendors that we met last year who we loved, and we lost their business cards.
No.
It was a true tragedy. We had no idea where they were or where they would be. So for some context, like the show is so large that it is spilled out into literally local motels. Like,
oh my God.
The show will rent out an entire Motel 6, an entire Quality Inn, and there's like a couple more, and people will set up literally inside and outside hotel or motel rooms. It is the weirdest thing you'll ever experience. It seems so sketchy, but it's also not. It's like it's controlled sketch.
Controlled sketch. I love it.
And so there's like 10 buildings that these people could be in, right? And we're searching everyone. And finally, it's the last day. And my mom and I are like, okay, we are committed. Like, we are going back. We are scouring for these people. And we go back to a motel that we had been to on the first day. And we found the first one.
Yeah.
And so we're like loading up. We're like so excited. My mom hugs a woman Like we're all like, oh my God, we couldn't find you. We lost your card. It was so dramatic. Like we've been looking for you. We load up, we get, whatever, we buy what we need to buy. And I'm like, okay, I have renewed faith. Like this has spurred me forward. We are going to find this other vendor. Bestie, they were in the booth next door. Like they were maybe 10 feet from where we were standing. And I don't know how we missed them the first time. But with hindsight, my mom and I were talking about it. We were so grumpy that day. Like my mom and I do this thing every time. It's like we forget we need to eat. We forget we need a moment to breathe. Like we just don't do it right the first day.
Yeah.
And then we like learn from our mistakes. We like, plan. We make sure we eat breakfast. We plan when we're going to take a break, whatever. And we walked right past them, probably because we were bickering. Just like not in the right mindset to like do it right. And so it was literally like the universe withheld them until we were in a better shopping mood so we could get all the things that we needed to get. It was so thrilling. I was so excited. So we have the best 2 whole pallets worth of stuff coming for Hedge Witch and Spellcrafter. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the unboxing.
Oh, you'll get play-by-plays. Don't you worry.
Yes. I can't wait.
All right. So we're just going to dive right in. Molly, you met your husband before. Did you meet him before you like got into Reiki? Or were you a Reiki master when you met your husband? This is me realizing I know very little about this topic. In my mind, you've just been married forever.
Yeah. I had just done my Reiki too. So I like to say that like my brain was definitely still a little bit skeptical, but I was doing it anyway. Like I was walking the walk even though my brain wasn't quite on board yet because my body and my intuition were on board. Because when I met him, it was right after I left my career as an advocate. And so it was sort of like really leaning into the healing, like the spiritual path, because I just felt really pulled towards that. Because, if you've listened to other episodes, I had chronic pain and all of that from the work that I was doing. And so, yeah, I met him like around the time that I met my energy healer and around the time that I started doing Reiki for other people and around the time that I really started to get deep into crystals, like kind of came out of the crystal closet.
So then, because I know a lot of people have messaged us like asking similar questions, what was it like to ease a skeptic into like, because now you're a full-blown motherfucking witch. So how did you transition him into like into your spiritual journey? Yeah,
I am married to a Virgo skeptic, which I know a lot of folks listening are too, because I posted about it on Instagram and everyone related to it.
Specifically Virgo skeptics.
Yeah, specifically Virgo skeptics. Honestly, like I feel like I was lucky because I was easing into my practice at the time that I met him. So it was like I was sort of like overcoming my own skepticism at the same time that he and I met. So it was sort of like, I had crystals all over the place, but it wasn't like, I had, spell candles and spell jars and like offerings laying around or whatever.
Yeah.
So he sort of got eased into it that way, but he definitely is still a skeptic, a very loving, supportive skeptic. But, there is times when he has like pain and I'm like, do you want me to do some Reiki? He's like, no. All right.
You're lost.
Yeah, I'm like, that's fine. But I mean, there are like, he's one of those people that he's like, I believe that you believe it. I believe that there's some validity to it because otherwise like you wouldn't believe it. But like, it's just not for me. And yeah, that's fine. I'm like, that's cool. No worries.
Yeah. I think the most important part in that is the like, I believe that there's validity to it because you wouldn't believe it if there wasn't. Like the trust and respect that you have in your partner to be able to recognize what is working for them and what isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. He just doesn't understand it and he doesn't have the interest to learn. So he's like, I know that I don't know what this is. And like, I also like, he has no interest in it, which is fine. Which honestly, like, I like to say I'm glad that I'm married to a Virgo skeptic because he keeps me grounded. And so because so much of my work, I work with so many people who are sort of like where I was stepping into this world and feeling like a little skeptical, but still called towards it. it's nice to have someone in my immediate circle that's really, really grounded to like science and reality, and like will challenge me when I get a little too woo. And that forces me to kind of like step back and be like, huh, okay, why do I believe in this? And what does this mean? And how does this work? And so, yeah, I like to say he keeps me grounded.
Yeah, I think that you'd be too powerful.
Oh, yeah.
If he was also, you know, like there'd be too much. You'd both float away.
Oh my God, I know. He's so funny though, because like, I think there's definitely a part of him that does believe in it, because our number one goal this year is to do like a big house renovation, which is obviously like hella expensive. And and the other day he was like, what is this jar with like coffee and $1 bill in it? I was like, that's my money bowl, babe. And he's like, why? I was like, I'm manifesting our renovation. He's like, oh, okay. Let me know when I should call the contractor. But then when I'm like, babe, call the contractor, he's like, all right. You know, like, he's like, hey, if it works, it works, right?
Yeah. I don't care about the means. I care about the ends.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's working for you, it is working for me.
Mm-hmm. So you met your partner, who's lovely, by the way, if you're listening.
Molly did meet him for the first time when she was in Florida. It was like one of the final tests.
Yeah. Approved.
Mm-hmm.
You met yours when you were full-blown witch, because you two have been together for a year-ish, right?
Yeah, just under a year. Yes, we met in early 2023.
So what was that like, easing him? Is he a skeptic? He's not really a skeptic.
No, he's like in no world is he calling himself a witch, but he has a very robust spiritual practice, I guess, is a better way to put it. It's very different from mine, which I think is what works well for me.
Yeah.
Is like, I don't know that I could really, I've never been with somebody really in the metaphysical space.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't have the experience to say like, oh, that wouldn't work well for me, but it's kind of the same thing of like, I need you to be grounded in a different place.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot more fun in having someone who has such a different viewpoint on things. There's just so much more to talk about than if we just were both like, yeah, I'm going to do a spell jar about it.
Yeah.
So no, definitely not a skeptic. Is like very excited about all of my weird and witchy things. But we met online.
Yeah. Tell us about that. How do you do the dating app thing as a witch? Because I know we've been asked this before.
I was very intentional in how I crafted my dating profiles to accurately show the level of importance that my spiritual practice has in my life, which is just to embed it in the basics.
Okay. Tell us.
Like, I'm a short profile girly. I didn't give the apps a ton of attention when I was on them, but like, for example, I put that I had a metaphysical store as my job. Mm-hmm. You know how you can have different, like, they ask questions and you answer them, whatever. Yeah. It was like, one of them was like, don't go out with me if, and I was just like, if you're not into the woo or whatever, like something along those lines. And just leave just enough that somebody can ask questions and show you their cards.
Yeah.
So not giving too much in the like, here's a layout of all of my spiritual beliefs, take it or leave it. But I could learn a lot about someone based on how they responded to the like the breadcrumb trail that I left in my profile. Because I got a lot of like, oh, are you going to cast a love spell on me? Like, har, 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 you know, like that kind of joke. And I was like, okay, immediately, like, you're not creative.
Yeah, bye.
And then when someone met me with curiosity of like, oh, what is that like? What does that mean? What is a metaphysical store? What do you mean when you say a little witchy?
Yeah.
Giving space of like, okay, here's, you know, I give it to you a little bit at a time.
I like that. I like the idea of like making people show their cards right away, because there's nothing worse than like getting to know someone, liking them, and then being like, you like those rocks? Why do you have rocks?
Yes. And that is like, I couldn't tell you how many times I got the like, oh, so you think those weird rocks like are really doing something for you message? And it's like, okay, so like the trash is taking out itself, you know, but I didn't have to put in a ton of effort of like explain,
Yeah.
I didn't have to lay out my practice for you to disrespect it. You are disrespecting the idea of me. You're not disrespecting me. And that makes it, I think, easier to process and just to like weed through.
Oh, I like that. And let's talk about love spells. Because you and I have similar opinions on them, and people ask us about love spells all the time.
Yeah. I think that it really depends on like your definition of a love spell.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did some workings right before I met my partner.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like, I guess I would call them love spells because they were love directed.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't look at him and say, oh, I'm going to make you fall in love with me with this candle.
Yeah.
It's
more like a becoming a magnet for the right person rather than like putting a lasso around someone and dragging them in.
Yes. It's more so, I love that, a magnet versus a lasso. Like I'm not looking for one person in particular. I'm looking for the person, and I'm letting the universe know that I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more so like a calling bell than like a fly trap.
Yeah. 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 And I very specifically, I don't teach love spells because one of my number one values in my business and my life is consent. And I just think so often, I mean, the way that you're talking about it, it's like, that's a consensual love spell, right? Like there's no like manipulation. There's no trying to like manipulate other people, change their free will, whatever. It's more about you, like you said, like opening that door to the universe and saying you're ready. But I think so much on the internet is like these very kind of like borderline manipulative love spells that I find really gross.
Make your ex come back. Like bring him back. You can like
he won't
he'll never stop thinking about
you. Yeah. Yeah. Put a rose quartz under their car seat and they won't stop calling you. Like it just feels gross. Like, and my whole thing is, I think these practices are tools to become closer to yourself. And I think when we focus too much on love spells to attract other people, then we sort of like create this internal messaging that I am not enough on my own. I need to be partnered to be whole. And then we get into that like, it's a slippery slope down into the twin flame universe that we talked about a couple episodes ago, where it's like true exploitation and manipulation of like people's spiritual journeys. And yeah, so I just avoid it altogether.
Yeah. And I think especially it's because people who are asking for help with a love spell, who are like willing to pay someone, oftentimes, like if you see on Etsy, there's like 1 million people who will, guarantee that he'll call you back if you just pay me $59.99 and I'll do a love spell for you.
Gross.
People who are searching for things like that are often coming from a place of desperation and from that feeling of like, I'm not enough on my own.
Yeah.
That, at least in my experience, there are a lot of people who don't want to hear the kind of workings that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a lot easier, especially in like a business standpoint, to just say, nope, cross that out. It's not on my to-do list, because it opens a door that it does make me uncomfortable a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like, not to say that people who teach love spells are bad or manipulative. Like there are definitely ways to do it in ways that still respect people's autonomy and free will. But I think it's tough because it's like the people who, are looking for those love spells. A lot of times they don't. There is, like you said, that desperation, and there's this feeling of like, this is the only option and this is the only thing that's going to make me happy. And that can kind of like erode someone's self-confidence and their ability to like be okay in themselves.
Yeah. And I do think that oftentimes like that feeling of desperation is coming from a well-intentioned place of, I don't think a lot of people are saying, oh, I want to manipulate someone's consent.
No.
I don't want to take away someone's free will. But that feeling is very easy to manipulate.
Yeah. And ultimately, not to get on my soapbox, but as a former sexual assault advocate advocate for survivors of sexual assault, to be clear.
I had never considered the alternative until you said it that way.
But yeah, as a former advocate, you know, I was immersed in like this world of understanding the pervasive nature of sexual violence in our culture. And part of my job was to teach consent education to kids. And so I always say, like, you know, I taught over 30,000 kids that your body belongs to you. And then it wouldn't make sense to, now that I'm a witch, teach the opposite, you know, like teach that, like, well, you can have whoever you want, because that just feeds into our culture of sexual violence. And so I teach practices that actively dismantle that culture rather than feeding into it. And like that's where I come from, as like someone who's like sneakily saving the world from sexual violence one spell at a time.
I think that that's such an important perspective to have in the space, because it can be easy to fall into like the idea of like, oh, I have this power and so I can use it however I want. Yeah. And if it comes to me, that must mean that it was meant for me. And I, you know, all of those things. So let's maybe talk about some ways to bring some love into your life that are not maybe kind of yucky.
Yeah, I love that.
You have told me before that you manifested your husband, but you've never really told me how. So can you please tell me how?
Okay.
I've just accepted that as truth. I've been like, yeah, sure. She just manifested
It was
him.
a complete accident. All right. But it's like one of those stories that I'm like, it's one of those stories that could be like weird and manipulative if I knew what I was doing. But truly, I think it was just the universe was dropping hints for me for a long time that this was the right person for me. So when I was 11, I was obsessed with this kid in my class. I just thought he was so cute. He looked like Aaron Carter. And
Of course he did.
I just adored him. And I used to write his name in hearts on my journal. I changed my Neopets password to his name. And then because I was 11 and my Neopets password was his name.
I need a minute with the Neopets thing.
His name became part of my password going forward, right? So it was like, and so it's like, you know,
it just became accepted into the lore.
Yeah, I forgot about this person, and it was just like, yeah, this is just like a part of my password, you know, followed by a string of numbers and other words and whatever.
I am so thankful that the thing that I got hyperfixated on when I was first making my first passwords was my lunch password at school. It was how I got my lunch.
So fast forward to I'm 26. I just left my job as an advocate, took a job at a retirement community, and have to make a password to log into the front desk computer. And I normally would just use this name and numbers and whatever, like, but there was a maintenance director with that name. And so I was like, it's going to be really awkward if he sees me type his name into the computer.
I thought you were going to go with that you did make it your password and he had to help you with your computer.
No.
Which I wish had happened.
Anyways, we fell in love. His name is Justin, and I had to change all of my passwords because they included his name in them.
Great for your cybersecurity.
I know. But I was like, wow, the universe really listened when I was drawing Molly and Justin forever in hearts on my notebook at 11.
Yeah, that is so funny. Little did she know.
Little did she know.
It would be Molly and Justin forever. Oh, that is so good.
I've never told you that story.
Once you started, I realized that you had told me bits and pieces of it. But I didn't know about the hearts in his name in the notebook really does seal it for me. Like, that's excellent.
Well, it was like the early 2000s. So it was right when Justin Timberlake was going solo. So I also had socks that said I Heart Justin and pins and like notebooks and stuff because the Limited 2 sold them all.
Were they for Justin Timberlake, or were you like, this is my secret way of proclaiming my love to Justin?
Way of proclaiming my love to the kid who looked like Aaron Carter because I was a Lance Bass fan. I was a Nick Carter and a Lance Bass fan. I was not a Justin Timberlake fan.
We are so the same. It is disgusting. That is some shit I would have done. This is me realizing that my childhood crush also has the same name as my partner.
What? What?
So, my partner's name is Andrew, but he goes by Drew. So I never think about the fact that his name is Andrew. I was drawing Madison plus Andrew forever in my childhood notebooks. I have to tell him about this.
Oh my God.
That is bonkers.
Well, so I guess that is the answer. That's how you attract love.
Yes. You just need to figure out what your childhood crush's name was. And find someone. Find him in a different form. I can't even finish the episode.
No.
I'm spiraling.
Oh.
Then when I said we are so the same, I did not realize how the same we are. Oh my God. Oh, your manifesting story is so much better than my manifesting story.
Yeah, tell us.
Like, I can't even tell mine. It's so boring.
No,
now.
yours is good. People love yours.
Okay. I think I have told this on the podcast before, but in like one of our very earliest episodes, I actually, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure that going on, because we started recording these episodes like months and months before the podcast launched. So I was like actively meeting.
Yeah, it was like your second or
Andrew.
third date. You told that story and I was like, that's it.
Yes. So this is advice that my mom gave me this is advice that my mom gave me when she was dating and met my stepdad.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't give me the advice as it was happening. I was a child.
Sure.
But when I grew up, and I went through like a really shitty breakup in 2022 that like wrecked me. I had to like move. I moved back to Florida. I was like living in the Midwest. Like it was a whole thing. It was very, very dramatic. And as I was like getting back into, okay, am I ready to meet someone, you know, whatever, my mom told me what she did to meet my stepdad, which is make a list of 100 qualities that you want your partner to have and set a threshold of like, okay, if someone meets, you know, I think her number was like 92 or 94 of like how many qualities someone had to meet for them to keep going out with her. But really, like what the practice is visualization,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and deciding that anything is possible.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people have so much scarcity mindset around like finding a partner, especially if you date men.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you heard there are no good men left out there?
Yeah. But also like that's a practice of recognizing your worth and like owning it.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that with that scarcity mindset can come like this idea that you have to lower those standards.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a practice in raising your standards and deciding exactly, like literally like build a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you want your person to be like, from their values to their personality to their energy, you know, must be a Virgo skeptic, you know, whatever. Must have the same name as my childhood crush. And so I started building my list. And around the time I was starting to build my list, I remember just like I bought one big, it was probably pink. That is what makes sense. But in my memory, I have no idea. One big candle and dressed it and carved into it, whatever. And just was like, this is my signifier. Like, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
This is my like closing that old chapter of focusing on this past relationship that doesn't matter anymore. And like walking into my new reality of like, this is no longer relevant and I'm happy and I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I've built a life that I love and I'm obsessed with.
Yeah.
And so I was building my list, and very funnily, me and my partner matched on every dating app. And one of us, we both equally ghosted each other. He ghosted me on Hinge, and then we matched on Tinder. Blake, I know. He asked me out. I got too nervous. I didn't answer. And then the day I made my list and I lit that candle, I like opened Bumble and he was the first face. And so I, messaged him and was like, I feel like at this point I should just give you my phone number. And the rest is history.
Cute.
So make your list of 100 things and commit to, I'm not going to go out with anybody who doesn't match with this list. And it doesn't have, it doesn't have to be all of them, But they have to get a passing score. You need to get an A.
Yeah.
On my list. It can't be like, oh, on my list he has a dog and this guy has a dog. So clearly.
Yeah.
Like set your boundary of or set your expectation of this is how many things this person has to meet. And my mom met my stepdad and they've been married for, however many years, a long time since I was a child. So jury's still out on mine, I guess. If this episode is scrubbed from the internet, you'll know what happened.
The best part is that this is being released on Drew's birthday. Happy birthday, Drew.
Happy birthday. I bespelled you into my life.
Well, I love that. I love leaving people with a little practice. A little practice they can do.
I love that. And I love you. And if you're not interested in romantic love,
we got a treat for you next week.
Yeah.
Next week, we are going to talk about self-love and some low-effort self-love rituals you can do to either build a better relationship with yourself or just treat yourself.
We will see you then. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison. If you want to learn more about us, you can find all our links in the show notes.
We'd love to know what you think of today's episode, so drop us a review or give us a shout out on social media. And don't forget to let us know your magical moment of the week. Okay, love you. Bye.